I have some questions and then other senators will have questions. I might just start with the HIA. So, I mean, effectively, my understanding is that we started out with a National Construction Code, which was only quite a small book 30 years ago. Now we've ended up with 2,000 pages. So how on earth did this happen?
Yeah, I might take that one. Thank you, Senator. So as you said, we created the National Construction Code, the then Building Code of Australia, in 1988, and it was first formed as a document that was brought together from each states and territories' previous sort of regulatory systems. We started out with a version specifically for all classes of building, and then we developed one specifically for housing in 1996. That document you referred to was 208 pages at the time. Over time, it then became a performance-based document, including performance requirements and deemed to satisfy or compliance solutions. And over time, we then referred to numerous Australian standards within the document as well for various different solutions. And then we've expanded the goals of the code from previously, when it was about life safety and structural safety, to take into consideration amenity, sustainability, livability, and now there's further consideration about adaptability and resilience. So over time, governments have tried to expand the scope of coverage, and the National Construction Code has been an effective document at a national level in being an enabler for various bits of reform to enable innovation, but also to respond to Senate inquiries or coronial inquiries or where there may be fires or other issues. Has it over time become very reactive and become the sort of solution for everything? Yes, and over the last 5 years we have seen that evolve significantly. We've now have over 165 Australian standards referenced in the code, and through them over 1,000 secondary and tertiary references. So the volume of regulation has become significant and has been very reactive. So we are very supportive of an approach that the government has underway to modernise and look at an overhaul of the code and look at what is its role going forward, rather than just continually adding more layers to it.
Okay, so my question was, how did the home building code go from 200 pages to 2,000 pages? Your answer was it's become the solution for everything. Why isn't it just about building a basic home?
I think it goes to that one, Senator, that it has been used as a tool for sustainability reform, for livability reform.
By who?
By governments, state and territory governments, and specific sectors of society that have tried to push reforms through to address their specific needs. And as it is a national document, it has been, as I said, one of the only factors we see with our planning systems, which are very fragmented, where the building code nationally has been a tool for addressing many reforms, but as I said, has become the tool for everything around it, but also as part of the system of regulation in the country as well, where to try and get definitive interpretations or advice on the code is near on impossible. So therefore people try and get more prescription into the code or more guidance, and hence it becomes the behemoth that we have right now.
Sure. So what's the cost for the average worker who wants to buy an entry-level house because of this code going from 200 pages to 2,000 pages and becoming the solution for everything?
Yeah. So we haven't done specifically on that component of it, Senator. We do know the National Construction Code 2022, which was the one that incorporated 7-star energy efficiency, livable housing, condensation, significant waterproofing changes, added $25,000 to the construction of a home. But over time, we have seen the Queensland Productivity Commission recently did a report that said that the growth of regulation and red tape on construction costs has added sort of 40% to the construction over the past decade. Okay, so I guess to ask you a dumb question then, so what's happening then with the 2025 NCC? Is that going to help, or is it just more of the same? So the NCC 2025 has got not as much changes in it related to residential and house construction, has a more focus on commercial buildings, but it is another change that the industry has to adapt to. Out of the Economic Reform Roundtable last year, that they did say that they'll put a pause on the code but still publishing 2025 and then have no further changes till the end of the Housing Accord period by 1 May 2029. But alongside that one, the bigger piece that's been agreed to, which we are trying to ensure we'd get right, is a review of the modernisation and overhaul of the code to get it right going forward, to be a fit-for-purpose document, looking at what is its role, because it's those expanding goals that's become everything for everyone.
Okay, so I guess the dumb question here is, why don't we have a system where if you want to build a cheap house, you can build a cheap house? Why is it that every house has to have all these things in it, as you say, the solution for everything? Would it be possible to have a graduated style system where you could have an entry-level house or a simple house without all the bells and whistles? Would that be possible?
Certainly. I think when some of these impact assessments that came forward last time for the 2022 changes, the costs and benefits didn't stack up. The recommendations were not to go forward with the livable housing changes and to do it through, as you said, consumer choice and through education or other measures that might be maybe offset or a benefit by if you build 3 houses on a site, 1 in 3 of them need to be accessible where you might have otherwise only been able to do 2. So having some sort of financial incentive to do so. So certainly we think that that's an option. Similarly, with the 7-star energy efficiency, the regulation impact statement didn't stack up on that one based across the country around it. It did say that you could do it different 6-star and then otherwise looking at your building in solar panels or battery storage systems to offset your energy usage. So there's other ways, but unfortunately the way the code has been done over time has been a very blunt mechanism.
Yeah, and so everything's compulsory in this system. So there's no graduated scheme, is there? Everything's got to be in everything.
That's right. It's either full in or full out at the moment. Okay,
so there's nothing stopping a future NCC from having a graduated approach, right? Or having a multitude of ways that you can build a house. So I guess my most perhaps pertinent question is, how do we get back to a 200-page document to make it easier for someone to build a cheap house if they want to build a cheap house?
Yeah. So our submission to the ABCB's modernisation project has gone to that point. The code is a performance-based document. The only mandatory requirements in the code are the performance requirements. They in themselves are only 200 pages. The rest of the document is all about compliance pathways to satisfy those performance requirements. So that's what we've said, that we should be looking at how we do that, as well as leaning into the use of technology, because there is some fantastic AI tools coming out around this one that could then provide that graduated system that you're talking about, Senator, rather than at the moment everyone sees the prescriptive 2,000 pages of the solutions as the mandatory requirements rather than those performance requirements, which is what the CIE said back in 2011, is there's $1.1 billion of untapped benefits from not leaning in to the proper use of the performance-based building code.
Okay, so is there a scenario where we can get back to 200 pages for the basic house, and then you have another schema, if you like, for methods of modern construction, for example?
That's right. So that's part of what we're talking about here, is get those performance requirements right, and then the compliance solutions, we could have a range of them underneath it. Currently, they're deemed to satisfy that are hardwired into the code, but we're trying to say we should be looking at other ways around that one, technical specifications for modern methods of construction specific to products rather than ones that have to be reliant on development of a new Australian standard that can take years and years and years, being much more quicker to market, because right now the code is acting as a block to modern methods of construction. It's acting as a block to different types of housing, like small lot housing, even repurposing old commercial buildings into residential facilities. The code is really hardwired and acts as an impediment, while we said it should be an enabler for reform. and technology.
So I guess what we'd like to take on notice from you then is what is that basic performance obligation system that you think should be the baseline for a basic house, an entry-level house? And we'd like that on notice. And then we'd like to consider how we could then layer on additional obligations for people who, if they want to have a more energy efficient house or a house with disability access or whatever. So if you could provide that on notice, that would be good. I guess just finally from me before I hand over and rotate the call to a few other senators. So just to summarise the current position from the government. So they've announced that they're going to make some changes to the code in 2020. They're calling it the 2025 code, but it's actually 2026 code. So that's more kind of tinkering. And then there's a 4-year freeze. Is that right?
That's right, Senator, yes.
Okay, so has the government announced any plan to try and get back to 200 pages or something?
Not specifically on a pages, but what they're doing alongside with this period of the pause and the reset is undertaking that modernisation of the code work that Treasury is leading, and ABCB is currently doing consultations and had a range of submissions around that one. And that is where the opportunity to talk about what is the code's role going forward, about it, the use of technology, the governance of the ABCB, how they do consultation, all of those key planks which are currently being, probably drifted over the past period of time.